Treaty Principles. Ready, steady, go. Stage 1. Treaty Principles Bill. Politicians call the shots. Stage 2. Citizens-initiated referendum. Politicians still call the shots. Stage 3. Election time decision. New Zealand citizens call the shots. Eventually, the public will call the shots. Stage 1. Treaty Principles Bill. First reading, select committee hearing, second reading, third reading, success. However, some of the coalition government parties have agreed to vote against the bill at the second reading in Parliament, so the bill is highly unlikely to proceed any further than the second reading. I think by now, most people are very familiar with the ACT Party's Treaty Principles Bill and its long-term value for New Zealanders going forward. As far as I can tell, most people love it, but some don't for various unfounded or simplistic reasons. Stage 2. Citizens-initiated referendum. If Stage 1 fails as is expected, then the next step is likely to be a referendum on the issue. A citizens-initiated referendum on the Treaty Principles Bill proposed law change can proceed if 10% of enrolled electors, about 360,000 voters, have signed a petition for it to take place. Given the popularity of the bill, I suspect over 500,000 voters would sign the petition. However, a citizens-initiated referendum is always non-binding. This means the government does not have to act on or implement the referendum results. How convenient. Now have a listen to Dom Brash and Jeff Neal on referendums.
If we look at the Treaty Principles Bill, polling has shown 2-to-1 Kiwis support it, but we've not got politicians reflecting that view, and we certainly don't have media reflecting that view.
What is clear is that the great majority of people on the right, certainly National, ACT and New Zealand First voters, want the decision about a constitution to be made by either Parliament itself or by referendum. They do not want the judiciary or the Waitangi Tribunal doing it, by and large.
The Treaty Principles Bill, and as you can see here, 3-to-1 Kiwis want it. This has not been well publicised. This is a piece of curio research. A message for the national members in the room. You've said you won't support it past the first reading, but 4-to-1 of your voters want it. For the Labour members in the room, even more of your voters support the Treaty Principles Bill. So I've got a whole lot of data here on every other party and breakdown. There's pretty unanimous support.
We certainly in Hobson's Pledge will do our damnedest to keep this issue alive, and we'll do as much as we can to put pressure on the Prime Minister to promote this bill beyond the second reading. Now, it may not happen, but if it doesn't, we'll make his life uncomfortable for the next election.
We haven't had a citizens-initiated referendum since 2012, so the democratic system is failing us. We need more citizens-initiated referenda. We haven't had any since the sale of state assets, which is over a decade ago now, I think. I believe we need to drop the threshold from 10% of voters to 5%. That would then be consistent with the multi-ward referenda. We need consistency around what constitutes, what triggers a referendum. I think it's crazy that we have two different levels. We should allow digital signatures. It's 2024. It shouldn't have to be physical bits of paper. And this will be controversial, but I would love to see if you hit 10%, 15 or 20% of voters, then it's a binding referendum, not just an unbinding one.
Some prime ministers are timid, some are not. In this particular issue, he's timid.
Stage 3, election time decision. Like Stage 1, which is well supported by the general public, but not by enough government parties in the House, then similarly, the Stage 2 referendum could be overwhelmingly well supported by the New Zealand public, but not the government, and so shuttled to the sidelines as a non-binding referendum. Should such a rejection occur by the politicians, then the decision to make the referendum a binding issue could be forced by the public by deliberately voting for a party that agrees to act accordingly and make the referendum results binding. As the Green Party would say, it would be time for the public to get up and act together as one. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. The end result will depend on how determined the public are to bring the Treaty of Waitangi gravy train to an end. It's that simple. If the public genuinely want a united New Zealand as one country with one people, one vote and one flag, they can have it. You can have it. It won't matter a dicky bird what the politicians think, say or want. It will happen if you vote for it to happen. New Zealand's race-based apartheid policies must be ended as quickly as possible, especially if the country wants to stop the brain drain to Australia and become a first-world civilised country once again. Thank you for listening. WhangāreiTim.